Acting Leader, successive governments have praised the loyalty and commitment of the Defence Forces, but largely have ignored anything to do with their pay. Indeed, the Public Service Pay Commission are quoted in this morning's Times as being constrained in what they were able to do when they reviewed the Defence Forces pay. So following years of neglect and poor pay, the Defence Forces deserve better than what's coming to them today. While the government feared that opening the floodgates by increasing Defence Forces pay may encourage industrial unrest in other areas of the public sector, this is something which they should have the courage to address as an alternative scenario from far more serious. A retention crisis in any other sector of the public service can be addressed by the use of agencies or civilian staff. This is not the case in the Defence Forces. Nor can the job of protecting the security of the state or territorial waters and airspace can be undertaken by any other personnel other than members of the Defence Forces. You cannot contract in somebody on a bomb disposal mission tonight if an explosive device is found somewhere in Dublin, Cork, Limerick or Galway or anywhere else for that matter. The only way to properly address the retention crisis is to have a proper pay review, another Gleeson Commission. The widely and now loudly articulated concerns of the Defence Force members are not just for their own welfare, but for the integrity of the Defence Forces itself and the very serious duties and missions they undertake. It's an absolute minimum that the government can do. The report of the Pay Commission will be cautiously welcomed, but 96 cents a day is hardly something to be screaming from the rooftops in the military service increase. Increases in allowances will be welcome and long overdue. But the bottom line on it is core pay has not been dealt with. Indeed, the Commission, I believe, will have said that core pay needs to be looked at, that there needs to be an immediate examination of everything to do with the Defence Forces. The 20,000 odd for pilots will be welcome. But what about the air traffic controllers? What about the fitters to keep those aircraft in the air? What about senior NCOs in infantry battalions that are core to the running of the battalion? That will have to be addressed. So the bottom line on it is the Public Service Pay Commission did all they could, given the constraints and the terms of reference that were placed upon them. I hope today that PD Fora and RACO will accept whatever is on the board, but accept it as an interim offer. I sincerely hope we're not going to have a long, drawn-out debate while soldiers wait for whatever paltry few shillings, soldiers, sailors and airmen, for whatever paltry few shillings comes their way. But there are a lot of things that can be done that don't include, or are not coming in under pay. This morning we heard Commandant Cathal Berry talking about paying out of his own pocket for an MRI scan for a soldier. That is just totally unacceptable. Healthcare needs to be looked after, family care needs to be looked after, accommodation in barracks needs to be looked after. We cannot have a situation where soldiers, sailors and airmen are sleeping in their cars or on ships after being at sea for several weeks. We cannot continue to have a situation where millions of euros worth of hardware is tied up in Haulbowline, where aircraft are on the ground because we don't have technicians to fix them. The sad fact of the matter is, people in the know are saying that the Pay Commission's report will ultimately lead to an exodus of several hundred people between now and Christmas, and possibly as much as 1,000 people. We are struggling to meet the requirements of duties at home and abroad, and at the same time we're looking for a seat on the United Nations Security Council. The two things just don't match, Acting Leader. They just don't match. And at the end of the day, we cannot continue to hope this is going to go away. We urgently need a Gleeson-type commission to sit down and do a root and branch examination of what is required to keep the Defence Forces going. People argue that there is no need for the Defence Forces. I wonder how it will be if a village in Donegal burns to the ground because there is no Defence Force to go out and fight fires. because that very nearly happened earlier on this year. What will we do when we get the next storm? What will we do when we get the next natural disaster to hit the country? What will we do the next time there's a search for bodies? Because who does it? The Defence Forces are always there, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This has to stop. Telling us that we're proud of the men in uniform is a thing of the past, really. We won't even give medals to some of them that are deserving of them. At the end of the day, pride is expressed in the way we treat people. I dread to think about the messages I'm going to get today from the wives and partners of the Defence Forces. I know how difficult PD4 are going to struggle today as they get the outcome from the pay review body. I know how difficult RACO, the Commissioned Officers Board, are going to struggle today. I plead with them to accept whatever is on the table today, and let's follow on with it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much indeed.